for your consideration some scenarios for you to take all the biblical principles about judging and apply them. Here we go, Judge Judy. Scenario number 1, Matilda is a Christian who appears to be growing in holiness. Week after week, she's in church, she volunteers in the nursery, she even attends 2 Bible studies. Why did I include that biographical information on Matilda? Because before we watch Matilda sin, we need to think about who she is. Before you and I jump on somebody at church because we saw them sinning, we need to stop and say, all right, who are we talking about here? Who is this person? What do I normally observe? Because that's going to give me the background to determine, is this going to be an issue that I need to judge? More details on Matilda. One Sunday, you pull into the parking lot of the church. You overhear Matilda speaking to her 7-year-old son rather sharply. Do you mention it to Matilda? I say, no. What? But she's sinning. That's right. But Matilda is a Christian who is growing in holiness. That's my observation. Who sins? That sounds like, oh, you and me. Christians sin. Now, you watched a mom get a little bit frazzled with her child. That's not uncommon, and frankly, that's pretty easy to do. But I think Matilda, no, she's a good mom. She appears to be growing in holiness. I am not going to jump all over her for this. Why? This is what Todd Friel said in Judge Not. You and I are not the sin police. If we point out each and every sin in one another, we wouldn't have enough time to gossip about people. And love should overlook a multitude of sins. Now, this is not to suggest we never point out sins in one another, because we're supposed to do that, but not each and every time. You, trust me, do not want to become that person. Most churches have at least one, and if you don't know who that person is, then you're probably it. And people probably walk like this around you in the hallway. Look how she, just to avoid you, because they think you're just going to be That is not how we are supposed to judge. But let us take a look now at scenario number 2. On Monday, you're driving to work, and you pull up, oh, there's Matilda in her van. And while you can't hear her, you can see that Matilda is shouting at her son. On Tuesday, you call Matilda to ask her for her grandmother's amazing pound cake recipe. She's named after her grandmother, by the way. Before Matilda puts the phone to her mouth, you hear her scream, "Shut up! Mommy's on the phone!" At Wednesday church, something that we used to do, you watch Matilda fiercely grab her son's arm as she rips him out of the pew to take him to the back of the church to have a special chat. Now, what do we do with our Bible study attending Matilda? This is our same friend, our sister in Christ, who appears to be growing in holiness, suddenly now seems to be demonstrating a pattern of sin. If you recall, in scenario number 1, we overlooked the one-off. But now we are starting to see, I am catching her regularly behaving like that. What is a Christian to do? Well, here's 5 things you might want to think about. Number 1, approach Matilda with a compliment. Why? Paul always did. If you were confronted by somebody in church, they spied you sinning repeatedly, and they walked up to you and said, "Hey, look, I've been noticing you've been really behaving poorly, and you need to knock it off because your kid is horrified, and you're giving the wrong impression to people out in public that Christians shout at their children, so you got to stop it." How would you respond to that? Whoa, you'd be a little bit defensive. Now, a Christian shouldn't desire to defend themselves. A Christian naturally, if they are growing in fruit of the Spirit, should hear that they've been sinning and go, "I have? Thank you for telling me." But we don't always react like that immediately. To help the person get there, start out by maybe saying, Matilda, I've known you now for years. I attend 2 Bible studies with you, and I have seen God grow you in so many ways. Can I just tell you, when I first met you 5 years ago, your countenance was not nearly the same as it is today. You are just a delight to be around. But, and then you can start your critique. Step number 2, ask Matilda why she's acting so uncharacteristically. So Matilda, recognizing that you're growing in holiness, I have to tell you, a number of times this week, I happen to catch you not behaving the way that you normally do with your children. Is something going on? Now, isn't that a little bit more loving than, "Dang, Matilda!" Consideration number 3, offer Matilda some help. Rather than just, "All right, I'm glad we've had this little talk. I don't expect to be seeing any of that come out of you again, Matilda." How can I help you? Is there something going on? Is there a burden? Have you experienced something bad lately? What can I do to share in what you're going through? Because that's what Christians do. Thought number 4, lovingly rebuke her if necessary. Being Socratic, asking questions, what's going on? How can I help? Can I dive into a mess with you and help you get out of it so that you can get back to being the Matilda we all know and love, as opposed to just zing, zing, boom. But should Matilda get defensive? Should Matilda start to deny what you saw with your own eyes? Then you have liberty to lovingly rebuke if those aforementioned steps have actually been tried. And finally, consideration number 5, instruct her biblically how she can overcome her sin. Remember, you're a parent, or you once were raising kids. You were never sharp with your kids. You never went through a season of frustration. You were never burned out. You were never weary because you were up all night dealing with a colicky child. Instead of just thrashing, bashing, rebuking, pointing, and making somebody feel rotten, help them with your wisdom, with your experience, to say, this is how we can go to war against this sin. Let's start doing 3 Bible studies together. Matilda,